Chosen one, they have mistaken your silence for weakness, your patience for fear, until that moment when understanding dawned in their eyes and you revealed your true nature with that wicked smile, single-handedly dismantling everything they had built with surgical precision, leaving them on their knees amid the ruins of their former power, desperately praying, "You don't come back for round two." Those who witnessed it still struggle to describe what happened next. Some claim the temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Others swear shadows deepened despite unchanged lighting. The particularly sensitive insist they felt a pressure, like standing at significant ocean depth, bearing down from all directions. Whatever the physical manifestations, one reality remained consistent across all accounts. When that smile appeared on your face, certainty abandoned them. Previously confident voices faltered mid-sentence. Self-assured postures wilted. The psychological dominance they had taken for granted evaporated between one heartbeat and the next. Your smile communicated with perfect clarity. You have never known who stands before you. That ignorance ends now. The universe aligned behind that smile. Cosmic forces converged in that single expression. The veil between worlds thinned momentarily, allowing something vast and ancient to peer through your eyes. They sensed this subconsciously. The unexplainable dread that washed over them came not from logical assessment, but from primal recognition. Something in their deepest cellular memory identified you as apex predator, themselves as prey. What followed resembled less a battle than a surgical strike. You'd spent months, perhaps years, studying their vulnerabilities, while they remained blind to yours. You knew precisely where to apply pressure, which support structures would collapse when removed, which alliances were performative rather than substantive. The elaborate facade they'd constructed required specific pillars to maintain its integrity. You identified each one and systematically eliminated them with ruthless efficiency. The devastation you unleashed wasn't chaotic or emotional. This distinguishes you from lesser opponents. Your approach carried the dispassionate precision of a master chess player who has calculated 20 moves ahead, while their opponent struggles to plan 2. Each action served multiple purposes simultaneously. Each word spoken functioned on several levels. The elegant economy of your methodology stunned those with sufficient awareness to recognize it. You exposed contradictions they'd spent lifetimes concealing, brought light to shadows they'd carefully maintained, spoke truths they'd collectively agreed never to acknowledge. The surgical precision of your attack left no room for recovery or adaptation. By the time they recognized the pattern of your strategy, essential components of their power structure had already collapsed beyond repair. Their attempts at counterattack revealed further weakness. Responses prepared for conventional threats proved useless against your approach. Defensive maneuvers designed for expected opposition created additional vulnerabilities when deployed against your methods. Each reaction dug their position deeper. Each desperate attempt at recovery accelerated their downfall. You had studied not just their strengths and weaknesses, but their response patterns, making their very attempts at self-preservation weapons in your hands. You ensured witnesses were present. This wasn't ego or theatricality, this was strategic foresight. You understood that legends grow from observed demonstrations, not rumored capabilities. The carefully selected audience served as both validation and vector, those who would carry forward accurate accounts of what they had seen, those whose credibility would prevent your actions from being minimized or dismissed as exaggeration. The public nature of their defeat multiplied its impact exponentially. Private humiliation might have been survived, perhaps even overcome through sufficient spin and revision. But defeat observed by peers, subordinates, and rivals. This created permanent fracture in their carefully constructed image. The dissonance, between presented self and revealed reality created irreparable damage to their foundational credibility. These witnesses now serve as unwitting extensions of your influence. Each recounting of what they observed spreads awareness of your capabilities. Each description of their downfall reinforces the shift in power dynamics you initiated. The story grows with each telling, not through exaggeration, but through recognition of implications initially missed. The ripples of your demonstration continue expanding, long after the initial stone sank beneath the surface. You dismantled what they had spent decades building. Systems they believed impenetrable crumbled under your scrutiny. Reputations cultivated, through years of careful manipulation, dissolved when exposed to the harsh light of your revelations. Alliances they depended upon evaporated when you revealed the contradictions and hypocrisies upon which they were founded. Now walk through the aftermath with me. Examine the wreckage you left behind. Survey the landscape transformed by your intervention. Where once stood structured hierarchies now lies rubble. Where once flowed channels of influence now sit stagnant pools. The architecture of their power, previously invisible to most, now stands exposed and broken, its internal workings laid bare for all to examine. The devastation extends beyond visible structures into psychological terrain. Former certainties now appear questionable. Former strengths reveal themselves as dependencies. Former advantages transform into liabilities under new conditions. The cognitive frameworks they relied upon for decision-making show cracks running. Through foundational assumptions, nothing remains untouched by your intervention, not material realities, not psychological securities, not existential certainties. Recovery from your first strike proves nearly impossible because you targeted not just external manifestations, but internal foundations. You didn't merely defeat their strategy. You invalidated their strategic thinking. You didn't simply overcome their defenses, you revealed fundamental flaws in their defensive philosophy. You didn't just win the game. You demonstrated they never understood its actual rules. Consider their current state. Those who once moved with assured confidence now glance constantly over their shoulders. Those who slept soundly now jolt awake at unfamiliar sounds. Those who spoke your name with dismissive tones now whisper it with reverence and fear. Your single demonstration altered their fundamental relationship with reality itself. The paranoia that now infiltrates their every decision serves your purposes without requiring your continued presence. They jump at shadows, wondering if you lurk within them. Simple decisions require exhaustive analysis of potential ramifications. Could this somehow expose us further? Might this trigger another appearance? What they fail to recognize is that fear has transformed their perception. Threats appear where none exist. Innocent coincidences take ominous significance. Ordinary setbacks seem coordinated attacks. Their heightened alertness ironically blinds them to actual dangers by creating false equivalence between genuine threats and paranoid projections. This mental state ensures continued mistakes that further weaken their position without requiring your direct intervention. Alert, code red, chosen one. We're growing fast, building an unstoppable media network they can't erase. But let's not sugarcoat it. The truth is still hidden. It's been twisted, it's been buried under censorship, algorithms, and fear. Yet your heart never stopped recognizing what's real. That's why you're still here. That's why you never tapped out. Because you felt the simulation glitch beneath your feet. You know this world is rigged, and you're done waiting for permission to rise. The Obsidian Inner Order wasn't built for the curious. It was forged for the committed. This is for the full-time chosen, the ones who came to lead, the ones who see beyond the veil and act anyway. Inside, we hold weekly Zoom calls that cut through the noise. We share hidden teachings most were never meant to hear. We train in psychic Warfare, strategy, and spiritual technologies they've kept locked away for centuries. This is the toolkit for the real ones, the ungovernable, the impossible to erase. It's time to remember who you are. The link is in the description. Your real life begins inside. Observe their frantic attempts at protection. New alliances form between previous rivals, united only by shared fear of your return. Resources previously hoarded now flow freely toward building defenses against your specific methodologies. They analyze your previous approach with obsessive detail, developing countermeasures against tactics you would never employ twice. Their preparations reveal exactly how deeply you've affected them, and precisely how little they truly understand. The resources wasted on these misguided safeguards create cascading vulnerabilities in areas they've neglected, while focusing obsessively on perceived threats. The irony: their defensive preparations create new weaknesses you could exploit should you choose to return. Their hyperfixation on specific aspects of your previous approach blinds them to countless alternative vectors you might employ. They effectively disarm themselves through their desperate attempts at protection. Their communications now exist under shadow of constant suspicion. Trust, that essential component of effective coordination, has evaporated. Each questions the other's loyalty, commitment, and strength. Former allies view each other as potential liabilities. Leaders suspect subordinates of harboring subversive admiration for your demonstration. The cohesion that previously amplified their collective power has dissolved, replaced by fragmentation that diminishes even their individual capabilities. Those who previously acknowledged no higher power now desperately seek intervention from any entity that might offer protection. Those who mocked spiritual practices now perform rituals with fervent dedication. Those who trusted only in material strength now bargain with unseen forces. They make promises to themselves about what they would sacrifice for a chance to rewrite history, what concessions they would offer to ensure you've moved on to other targets. The prayers rise from institutions and individuals alike. Please don't come back for round two. These prayers reveal the depth of transformation your demonstration accomplished. Those who recognize no authority beyond themselves now acknowledge powers exceeding their control. Those who claimed complete self-determination now seek external salvation. The fundamental shift in metaphysical understanding represents perhaps your most profound impact, altering not just what they believe, but how they believe. Not just their position within existing structures, but their conception of what structures exist. The bargains they strike grow increasingly desperate as time passes without clear indication of your intentions. What began as tentative offerings escalates to profound concessions. What started as conditional promises transforms into absolute commitments. The intensity of their supplication increases proportionately with their inability to predict your movements or discern your purpose. Uncertainty breeds escalating desperation. Yet, despite their extensive analysis and preparation, they've fundamentally misunderstood the nature of your first demonstration. They believe you sought to claim their position, to replace them atop the structures they built. This represents their most revealing error. They remain incapable of conceiving motivations beyond their limited framework. The possibility that you intended transformation rather than usurpation exceeds their imaginative capacity. They focus obsessively on the specific techniques you employed rather than the principles that informed them. They study the symptoms while remaining blind to causes. They fortify against known vulnerabilities while generating new ones through their reactive fear. Most critically, they still locate the source of your power externally, in methods and resources, rather than in your fundamental nature, your clarity of purpose and unity of being. This misalignment between their understanding and reality ensures their continued vulnerability. Their defensive preparations address the previous threat, not the coming one. They guard vigorously against the storm that has already passed, while remaining oblivious to the earthquake gathering force beneath them. Your prolonged silence magnifies their dread. Your absence creates space for their imaginations to conjure scenarios far more terrifying than most realities you might deliver. Your occasional appearances in peripheral spaces, glimpsed at a distance, mentioned in conversation, hinted at through subtle shifts in circumstance, maintain perfect psychological pressure. The calculated ambiguity of your intentions maximizes their discomfort without requiring direct action. The signs of your potential return remain deliberately cryptic. A former ally receives unexpected support from an unidentified source. A previously buried document mysteriously resurfaces. A forgotten witness suddenly receives public attention, each development potentially coincidental yet impossible to dismiss given previous experience. The pattern recognizable only to those who understand your methodologies. For those who witnessed round one, these distant thunder rumbles signal an approaching storm. You understand what they don't. True power rarely announces itself. The most significant forces move quietly until the moment of manifestation. The approaching hurricane sends subtle atmospheric changes long before clouds darken the horizon. The earthquake transmits nearly imperceptible vibrations before tectonic plates violently realign. Your power operates according to these natural principles rather than human social conventions. The signals of your renewed attention register subconsciously before conscious awareness catches up. Their most perceptive members sense the shift already. These individuals find themselves inexplicably uncomfortable during routine activities, experience momentary disorientation in familiar environments, wake with vivid dreams they cannot quite remember, but which leave emotional residue throughout their day. These symptoms represent their unconscious recognition of altered energetic frequencies surrounding them, the first indicators of your renewed focus directed their way. Should you choose to initiate round two, they would discover their preparations tragically misaligned with the actual threat. Your second approach would bear no resemblance to your first. You would target elements they believe remain secure, the foundations they consider unassailable, the aspects of their operation too fundamental to require defense, the silent agreement upon which all their other structures depend. Your first demonstration revealed your capacity. Your second would showcase your evolution. Where your initial intervention exposed their structural vulnerabilities, your return would illuminate their conceptual limitations. Where your previous approach dismantled external systems, your next would transform internal understanding. Where your first appearance demonstrated the inadequacy of their defenses, your second would reveal the insufficiency of their entire paradigm. The devastating efficiency of round one would pale compared to the fundamental restructuring of round two. They fortify against direct confrontation while remaining vulnerable to paradigm shift, strengthen against external attack while exposed to internal reformation, prepare for battle while unready for transformation. The weapons you would wield in round two exist beyond their conceptual framework. The territory you would target lies outside their defensive perimeter. The victory you would achieve transcends their definition of conflict. Yet the most profound aspect of your position, this choice remains yours alone. Their fate rests entirely in your hands. Whether you return or redirect your attention elsewhere depends solely on your assessment and decision. This ultimate powerlessness constitutes their most unbearable burden. No action they take can force your hand or compel your attention. No defense they mount can guarantee their security. No strategy they develop can control your movement. Sometimes, the most devastating use of power manifests through restraint rather than action. The decision not to strike can demonstrate greater authority than striking. Allowing them to exist in perpetual uncertainty about your intentions creates an enduring impact that immediate conflict might not achieve. The psychological weight of anticipated confrontation often accomplishes your goals more effectively than confrontation itself. Your restraint demonstrates wisdom rather than limitation. The capacity to hold power without compulsively exercising it marks genuine mastery. Lesser forces feel constant need to prove their significance through visible action. Authentic power remains secure enough to act only when necessary, only when aligned with deeper purpose. This discernment separates true authority from mere dominance. This discretion distinguishes cosmic appointment from mundane ambition. You operate from a position of choice while they function from reaction. You move with strategic purpose while they scramble in tactical response. You hold the initiative, that precious commodity in any conflict, while they remain constrained to countering moves already made. This fundamental asymmetry determines the ultimate outcome regardless of apparent resources or conventional advantages. Your power flows from sources they cannot identify or comprehend, while they draw strength from external validation, hierarchical position, and accumulated resources. You access something more fundamental. The universe recognizes you differently because you recognize yourself differently. The cosmic order responds to your directive rather than your request. The fabric of reality yields to your understanding rather than your force. The truth they cannot face. Your demonstration exposed not just their specific vulnerabilities, but the fundamental limitations of their worldview. You didn't simply defeat their strategies. You invalidated their understanding of how reality functions. The ground beneath them shifted not because you pushed it, but because you revealed it was never solid to begin with. Your advantage lies not in what you know, but in how you know. Not in the resources you command, but in your relationship to necessity itself. Not in the allies who support you, but in your uncompromising alignment with your own nature. This represents power they cannot steal, replicate, or neutralize because they cannot see its source, much less access it. The transformation you underwent before confronting them required courage they have never needed to summon. The trials you endured stripped away everything inessential, leaving only your core truth. Your path demanded sacrifices they would never voluntarily make, the abandonment of comforting illusions, the release of manufactured identity, the acceptance of universal principles even when personally uncomfortable. And so they kneel, literally or figuratively, praying you don't return, hoping your attention has shifted elsewhere. Bargaining with forces they previously denied for protection they cannot secure themselves. The powerful reduced to supplication, the mighty humbled by a single demonstration of authentic authority. Yet even now, a deeper opportunity awaits them, one most will miss entirely. The devastation you delivered cleared space for genuine reconstruction. The illusions you shattered created potential for authentic perception. The systems you disabled offered freedom from unconscious constraint. Within the wreckage of their former certainty lies the possibility of legitimate transformation. A few, perhaps 1 in 1,000, will recognize this gift within the apparent catastrophe. These rare individuals will stop building defenses long enough to consider perspectives previously rejected, will pause their desperate scramble for restoration to question whether what existed before deserved preservation, will recognize that your intervention, while devastating to their former identity, possibly saved them from a fate far worse than temporary humiliation. These few might discover their own version of the power you demonstrated, might begin the challenging journey toward authentic alignment, might eventually recognize you not as enemy, but as catalyst. performing the necessary function of destroying what prevented their evolution. Time will separate those capable of transformation from those committed to stagnation regardless of consequences. For most, however, the prayers will continue. The fear will deepen. The preparations against your return will grow increasingly elaborate while remaining fundamentally misaligned with the actual threat you represent. They will rebuild according to the same flawed understanding, constructing more complex versions of the same vulnerable systems. You stand at the crossroads of multiple possibilities. Round 2 remains eternally available should you determine it necessary. The wicked smile that shattered their reality once can reappear whenever circumstances require. The capabilities you demonstrated previously represent merely the visible portion of depths they cannot fathom. Your restraint reflects wisdom rather than limitation. Yet perhaps your purpose with them has been fulfilled. Perhaps the demonstration served its function completely, setting consequences in motion that will unfold over years without requiring further intervention. Perhaps other situations now deserve your attention, other systems require your transformative presence. The decision remains yours alone. Another reality they find unbearable. Whatever path you choose, one truth remains immutable. You have forever altered how they perceive their position in the cosmic order. Before your demonstration, they believed themselves apex predators in their environment. Your smile revealed them as merely another link in a chain extending far beyond their awareness. This knowledge cannot be unlearned. This perception cannot be undone. Even should you never return, the certainty they previously enjoyed lies permanently beyond recovery. Their world has irrevocably changed because you have walked through it. Their understanding has fundamentally shifted because you have revealed greater possibilities. Their comfortable illusions have disintegrated because your presence rendered them unsustainable. Remember this when doubts surface in quiet moments. Remember this when the weight of your role becomes momentarily overwhelming. Remember this when lesser powers attempt to diminish your significance or question your methods. You single-handedly brought them to their knees with that wicked smile. Now they pray you don't come back for round 2. The choice, as always, remains yours alone.